All right, we're going to get started early today just because there's a lot on the plate and I got a few things to complete myself. Um, so if we could, one more time, if we could get a who's here, who's not here, you should be able to unmute and state your name.
Hello, Mr. Lewis. This is Keith Ann.
Good morning, Keith Ann.
Good
It's
morning,
good.
Mr. Lewis. This is MJ.
MJ.
It's good morning, Madison Caitlin.
Good morning, Mr. Lewis. This is Kristen.
Kristen. That's it.
Good morning, Mr. Lewis. This is Jaden.
Thank you. Good morning. Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Lewis. This is Tina.
Kayla. Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, we're going to move forward. Um, and there's a reason for the roll call, as usual, just to make sure who's here, who's been coming here, who is participating, who's involved, who's going to make themselves known to me. Not that I'm someone special, but as far as I'm concerned, uh, we're all special and we're all um, responsible for what you put yourself into, what you state, what you stand behind, what you support. And I'm saying all these things before we get started is because of the simple fact when you agree to a certain thing, whether it's monetary or a secret or whatever it is that you commit to, you have a personal obligation to see it through. Now, it may be late, it may be diverted for whatever reason. Make that reason known to the individuals that are counting on you or who look for your support or whoever it is that you have made a verbal and written agreement with. See it through. Um, it's important because of the simple fact this call today is going to touch on a few things, and I'm going to give you an insight out of my own personal life. And I think it should be known for people and everybody because one thing that you will find in life is that you never know who you're speaking to. It could be somebody in your own family. So you want to make sure that how you treat that person and what you do has a consequence, to which is our first word of today, and that is consequence, financial consequence. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys take the floor and take care of your words from last week so it doesn't get too long. But I do have something to share that's very serious. And you will see exactly what I mean when I explain it to you. So let's go for those who are ready with last week's words.
Mr. Lewis, could I go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So contract. A contract is a legal agreement between two or more people that states what each person must do. It can be written or spoken, but written contracts are stronger in court. Contracts are used in jobs, sales, and services to make sure everyone follows the rules. The word comes from the Latin "contractus", meaning to draw together. If someone breaks a contract, they might have to pay money or face legal actions. Contract helps keep businesses and personal deals fair. Contract law. Contract law is a set of rules that decides how contracts are made, followed, and enforced. It helps protect people from unfair agreements and makes sure contracts are legally binding. If someone breaks a contract, contract law helps decide what happens next. This type of law comes from English common law and has been used for hundreds of years. Courts look at contract law to solve disputes between people or businesses. Without contract law, deals will be risky and unreliable. Usury is when someone charges extremely high interest on a loan, making it unfair or illegal. In the past, any interest on a loan was considered usury, but today it usually refers to unreasonable high rate. Many countries and states have laws that limit how much interest a lender can charge. The word comes from usura, meaning a use or interest paid on money. In history, usury was seen as morally wrong, and some religions banned it today. Payday loans and loan sharks are often accused of usury. Usury was also used in the Bible. In the Bible, the word usury means charging interest on a loan, especially to those in need. Several verses like Exodus 22 to 25 and Leviticus 25:35 warn against taking advantage of the poor by adding interest to their debt. The main idea is that lending should be an act of kindness, not a way to profit off of someone's struggles. However, Deuteronomy 23:19 to 20 allows interest to be charged to foreigners, showing that the rules depend on the situation. A purchase is when someone buys something by paying money for it. It can be anything from a small item like a candy bar to a big one like a house. The word comes from the Latin "purchaser", meaning to try to get or to buy. In business, a purchase is recorded as transaction to track money spent. People make purchases online in stores or from other people. Buying something usually means agreeing to its price and terms. Principal is the original amount of money borrowed in a loan or invested. It does not include any interest or extra fees. For example, if you take out $1,000 loan, that $1,000 is the principal. When you make loan payments, part goes to the principal and part goes towards interest. Paying off the principal faster can reduce the total cost of a loan. Interest is the extra money paid on a loan or earned from an investment over time. Banks and lenders charge interest as a fee for borrowing money. The amount of interest depends on the interest rate and how long the loan lasts. If you borrow $1,000 with a 5% yearly interest rate, you'll owe $50 in interest after a year. Interest can help people grow their savings, but high interest on a loans can be expensive. A vehicle in a vehicle inspection is a check to make sure a car is safe and meets government rules. Mechanics look at things like brakes, lights, and emissions to find any problem. Many places require inspections before a car can be registered or sold. Liability is a legal or financial responsibility for something like debt or damage. If a person or business owes money, that debt is considered a liability. And that's it.
Awesome job. Thank you so much. Awesome job.
Mr. Lewis, can I go next?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First, contrast. No, it's contract. Contract. A contract is a legal agreement between two or more parties where they promise to do something or not to do something in exchange for something of value. Contracts can be written or spoken, but written ones are more common to avoid misunderstanding. You gotta write it down so it's embedded is embedded on the tablets of your mind. For example, um if you agree to now mow oh geez. If you agree to mow your neighbor's lawn every week for $20 and they agree to pay you, that's a contract. You promise to mow the lawn and they promise to pay you $20. Contract law. Contract law is the branch of law that governs the creation, enforcement, and interpretation of agreements, contracts between parties, agreements, contracts between parties. Yes. It ensures that contracts are fair, legally binding, and that parties follow their promises. If a contract is broken, contract law decides what happens next. They decide the punishment. For example, if you sign a contract to buy a bike for $200 and the seller refuses to give you the bike after you pay, contract law allows you to take legal action and get your money back or force the seller to deliver the bike. Usury. Usury is the practice of lending money at an unreasonable high interest rate, often beyond what is considered fair or legal. For example, a person borrows $1,000 from a lender who charges a 50% monthly interest rate. At the end of 1 month, the borrower owes $1,500. This excessive interest rate would be considered usury in many places as it takes advantage of the borrower. Liability. Liability means being legally responsible for something, especially if it causes harm or loss. It can involve obligations like debts or responsibilities to fix damages caused by your actions. For example, if you accidentally break your neighbor's window while playing basketball, you have to liability no, you have liability to pay for or fix the damage. Principal and interest. Principal Principal. The principal is the original amount of money borrowed or invested, not including any extra charges like interest. Interest is the extra money paid for borrowing money or earned when investing money. It's usually a percentage of the principal. For example, if you borrow $100 from a friend and agree to pay back an extra $10, you owe them $110 in total. Here's $100 in the principal, and here's $10 is the wait no. In total, $100 is the principal and $10 is the interest. And vehicle inspection. Vehicle inspection is when a car, truck, or any other vehicle is checked to make sure it's safe to drive and meets the rules set by the government. This includes looking at things like brake lights, tires, and emission. And this helps you determine if it's been in an accident or anything. For example, during an annual vehicle inspection, a mechanic checks if your car's headlights are working, the tires have enough tread, and the exhaust system isn't polluting too much. Yeah, that's it for me.
Excellent job. Thank you so much, sir.
It was all up. I'd like to go next.
Yes, sir.
Contract. A contract is a written or spoken agreement between two or more parties. Contract law. The contract law sets the rules and enforces contracts, and it provides remedies if those rules are broken. Liability. A liability is a thing or person that brings somebody a disadvantage.
Hmm.
Principle. A principle is a rule, belief, or idea that guides you. Interest. Interest is money paid regularly at a particular rate of money lent or for delaying the repayment of a debt. Vehicle inspection. Vehicle inspection is evaluating a vehicle's condition and needs. Dividends. Dividends are what you're receiving for having something sitting. For example, if you got money in your savings account and it just grows interest. Usury. Usury is the legal action of lending money at an unreasonable high rates of interest. That's all for me.
Excellent job, sir. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Lewis. May I go next?
Yes, please.
Okay. Contract. A contract is a legally binding agreement between two or more parties that outline terms and conditions of a transaction. This creates mutual obligation that can be enforced by law. Essentially, it's a promise to perform a specific action in exchange for something else of value. The key points of contracts would be it is legally enforceable. A contract requires an offer, acceptance, and consideration. There's a difference between a written and an oral contract. Contracts can be verbal, however, written contracts are generally preferred for clarity. There are different types of contracts depending on what type of agreement. Contracts can be unilateral or bilateral, which means one party makes a promise or both party makes a promise. An example of a contract would be signing a lease or buying goods online where you agree to terms and conditions. Contract law is the legal framework that governs agreements between parties. It is the legal process that protects people once they go into contracts. It establishes rules for creating, interpreting, and enforcing contracts. Contracts create obligation, provide remedies, and ensure fairness. Examples of contracts would be deeds and trademarks. Usury. Usury is the act of charging interest on a loan at a rate that is higher than what is permitted by law. Usury is considered a crime.
Mm-hmm.
There are laws that are designed to prevent lenders from taking advantage through usury. An example would be a lender charging a borrower more than the legal interest rate. Usury laws limit the amount of interest that can be charged on different types of loans. Another term that is sometimes used to refer to usury is riba, R-I-B-A. It's just something I saw while I was researching it.
Mm-hmm.
Liability. Liability is the legal responsibility of a person or entity to compensate for any damage to another party. It can also refer to financial obligations that a business or individual has. Within personal finance, liability would include mortgages or credit debt. Principal and interest. In finance, principal refers to the original amount of money borrowed in a loan, while interest is the cost charged by the lender for borrowing that money. It is a fee you pay to access the loan. An example would be if you take out a car loan for a set $20,000, that would be the principal amount, and the additional fees would be the interest because of how long it takes you to repay the loan. And then finally is vehicle inspection is a procedure that is necessary by governments in many countries where the vehicle must be inspected to make sure that it is safe and follows the governing safety rules. Yes, that's all for me.
Excellent job. Thank you so much.
Can I go next?
Yes, please.
Okay. A contract is an agreement between two people or more people or groups where everyone involved agrees to do certain things. It can be written or spoken, but written contracts are more common because they are easy to prove if there is a disagreement later. Contract law. A contract law refers to an area of law that deals with agreements between two or more parties. A contract is legally binding promise or set promises where one party agrees to do something or not to do something in exchange for something of value for the other party. If someone breaks the terms of contract law determines what legal action can be taken. Liability. Liability means being legally responsible for something, especially if something goes wrong. For example, if someone was to get hurt or something is damaged, the person will have to be liable or have to pay to fix it. Interest. Interest is money you either earn or have to pay. So if you borrow money, you have to pay it back. In, yeah, or say, and that's the car inspection. Car inspection is a process where a vehicle is checked to make sure to be safe to drive and meets legal standards.
All right. Thank you, sir. Excellent job. Appreciate it.
May I go next?
Yes, please.
Contract is a written, legal binding agreement between two or more parties describing the terms and conditions of what each party wants to happen. A contract is a legal tit for tat or scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. A contract creates obligations between the parties and it is enforced by law. There is written and there are oral contracts, but contracts are preferred because it provides more clarity and more details of what a party wants and expects. Contracts can also be classified as unilateral, where only one party makes a promise, or bilateral, where both parties are making promises. Contract law is a legal framework and outline that establishes the rules for creating, interpreting, and enforcement of a contract. If a contract is violated, the law is on the side of the harmed party and allows recommendation like pay a specific amount of money or perform a specific act. Usury can be considered a crime. It is the act of charging interest on a loan that is higher than what the law allows. A usurer is someone who takes advantage of someone with misfortune. Usury law was created to limit the amount of interest charged on different types of loans. Another name for usurer is a loan shark. Liability is the law requiring you to take responsibility of something. It could also mean a hindrance or someone that could be a danger to a movement or a political party. Liability is an obligation to pay the mortgage, credit debt, or car loans, or things someone might have damaged. If you violate a contract, you will be liable to face the written consequences. Companies could also be held liable, and it's called corporate liability. It's when companies are held responsible for damages if their actions or inactions cause harm to others. Principal and interest is just the borrowing of money and the cost of borrowing that money. Vehicle inspection is just being able to look at a vehicle and see if it's good or not. You have to learn how to look at the tires and make sure they're new and smooth and not something old that they're trying to pass off as new. You want to check the engine and the oil line and carburetor and make sure they're not selling damaged parts. And you also want to learn how to check the history of a car to make sure it hasn't been in an accident and then make it seem like it's brand new.
That's it.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Excellent job. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, can I go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. A contract is a legally binding agreement between two or more parties that requires them to provide or perform a specific action or service by law. They can be typed, written, sent as invoices or letters. The history of contract law can be traced back to ancient civilization and was influenced by ancient Greece or Rome. Contracts and agreements became normalized in the late 19th century. They are now used in everyday life for a multitude of things. If you want to pay for a course on how to sell on Amazon, they have you sign a contract. If you go into the bank to open up a new checking or savings account, they have you electronically sign documents that are in agreement with their terms and their conditions, basically signing a contract to give them control of your finances. Contract law is a set of laws that regulate how contracts are created and enforced. They cover things such as what a document must contain to be considered a contract, who is eligible to enter in the contract, the consequences for violation, etc. It explains how, when, and where they are enforceable. Vehicle inspection is the process of thoroughly examining a vehicle to assess its overall condition, checking all of its components like tires, brakes, lights, steering to ensure that they're functioning properly and meet safety standards, thereby identifying potential issues before they become major problems and preventing accidents on the road. Many states require regular vehicle inspections to maintain road safety annually. The purpose of it is to identify potential hazards and to ensure that it's safe to drive on the road. Usury is charging interest on a loan at a rate that is higher than the maximum rate that the law allows. Usury takes place when people are rejected or ineligible for loans through legitimate channels, so they would take the route of going somewhere off the books, which leads to them being robbed. It could also be used in a moral sense in terms of taking advantage of people's misfortunes. Liability is the core idea that you are responsible for the outcome of a situation, whether it's good or bad. It simply means being responsible for something, like being on the hook for something that could potentially cost you money or cause you problems, essentially meaning you could be held accountable for something that happens. It's like being in debt to someone or something else, even if it's not always a direct financial obligation. Principal and interest. The amount of money that is being borrowed is the principal, while the interest would be the cost you have to pay for borrowing the money. The fees and the interest of that money are paid before any of the money goes towards the principal. They work together based on 4 steps of a system. Monthly payments, which means that each monthly payment goes towards the principal and the other goes towards interest. Equity, which begins to build as you pay down the principal. The interest rate, which determines how much interest occurs on the principal for non-payment, which is why it's important to pay down the principal as soon as possible so there isn't a bigger debt. You see a version of this relationship present itself all the time with banking. For example, if you have a credit card with a $2,000 limit and you choose to pay for items with the card, the lender will say that you can pay it off by only paying $60 a month. It seems like a good deal, but in reality, that is how they're profiting off of you, and that's where the interest comes from, with the small little payments instead of just paying it down altogether. And that's it for me.
Awesome job. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Is that everybody? That it? All right. So let's move into today. Um, like I said, I have a a little information I'm going to share with you, but I want you to pause for a minute and look at what all of you just talked about. And all of them are basically connected. Now I'm going to break down just a few of them just so you see how easy it is to get into a situation or an agreement and not even realize what you've just done. Hence, the first word of today is financial consequence. Financial consequence. It's everything that you just talked about. So I want to back up real quick on one of those, actually two of those words. Contract law. Okay, so basically, like you said, the law enforces the contract, which is usury. A contract is straight up usury because you're going into a contract agreeing to a financial obligation and they want something for allowing you to do it. Right? That's business, as they call it. But I want you to look at something for a second and you'll see how all of these words tie into each other. Principal and interest. Although Jaden said that you pay the principal first if you can, the whole reason you're going into a loan is because you don't have the money, which I strongly advise against. If you don't have the money to get it, leave it alone, unless it's something that's out of your control and you need to do it. But most people go into, we'll just use a small thing, buying your first car. Okay, let's just say for a second, your first big purchase is buying a car. Now, we talked about it last week, but I just want to pick up and touch on a few things in that. When you go into that dealership and get the car, let's say you get all the way back home and you sitting there looking at the car and you're thinking, okay, so I have a car. The first thing you should think, what are the consequences of just purchasing that thing? Number one, it's a liability. It's a liability. You are liable for it in many ways. The first way is to repay the financial obligation. The second way is you operating that vehicle. It's a liability because the second you get behind the wheel, everybody else is in trouble. And I say that not to say that you don't have proper driving skills. I say that because now you are behind the wheel of a vehicle that could hit somebody, run over somebody's flowers, knock down a mailbox, on and on and on. That's a liability on you. So you have to control that vehicle to the best of your ability every day. Hence, which brings up vehicle inspection. I'll get on that in a minute. But I want you to look at the principal and interest of that transaction. You bought the car. Now you're liable to pay for it. The usury part of that transaction is that they're charging you interest for having it. Every payment you make goes to interest at a higher ratio than to the principal. Like I said, if you're making a car payment of $350, $300 is going to their interest. $50 is going to the principal. That's usury. So instead of charging this crazy amount of interest, which is illegal and known as usury, they switch the payment ratio where they make money first before you pay off this car. 300 versus 50. In the contract, now you see how they're all wrapping into each other? In the contract is a statement of that you are taking on the obligation of paying for this car. You signed it. When you sign that contract, you're liable to the principal and interest payments as they set up. Not you, not your bank. They set up. Okay, so you see how all five, what is that, 6 words? Almost 6 words work together on one thing. All right, I had to hit that so that you understand anytime you take a loan, you're paying interest first and very little on the principal, which takes it forever to be paid for. If you're only paying $50 on a $3,000 loan, how long is it going to take to pay $50 to $3,000? But they're getting interest off of that payment as well. Their fees. Okay, so it's imperative that we do a really good job going forward because you have financial consequences every day. Every day. Every day. Every day. It doesn't go away until you stop breathing. Okay, so don't ever think just because, you got a job or whatever, or I'm in school now and I'm just a kid and all I do is homework. No, actually, you have a financial consequence. Every time you put a fork to your mouth, every time you put on a new pair of clothes, you're creating a financial consequence. Okay? Keep that up there. This next thing is near and dear to my heart because it's what I do every day when I'm at work, before I get in the truck and after I get out of it. So I'm going to give you, and I need you to write this down. I'll give you a minute to grab a piece of paper, pencil, pen, crayon. A proper vehicle inspection. A proper vehicle inspection. This is what you need to do every time. The same way every time. Even if you're not driving, if you're getting in a car with a friend and they just jump in the car, stop. Get them out of the car and show them I'm getting ready to share with you. The first thing you do before you even put the keys in the car, you're going to walk around the vehicle. You're going to look at the tires. Make sure there's nothing in the tread. So you actually have to look. You have to get down and, get on a knee or whatever, or squat down if you're good at that, and look at the tire. So many people do not do this, and it's the simplest thing. You start at the driver's side, the tire that's right outside of the driver's door. Start with that. Look around it. Go to the next one in the back, rear of the driver's side. Check it, right? While you're there checking that tire, there should be a turn signal right there, like a lens. Look and make sure it's not cracked, right? Now you stand up and go behind the car. Check it. Just look at it. Make sure all the stuff is not cracked or everything's intact. This may seem silly to you, but trust me, it can save your life. So you move around to the passenger side, rear tire. Check it. Make sure it's good. Look at it. Kick it. Make sure it's got plenty of air in it. You do that with all of them. Unless you have on sandals and your toes are exposed, you use the heel. Just kick it with the heel. Don't hurt yourself. Same thing up to the passenger side, right? Now you've checked all your tires. You come around the front of the car and walk back and look under the car where the engine would be. Make sure there's nothing on the ground. Oil, water, liquids of any sort, something dripping or whatever. You'll see a little wet spot underneath of that engine. Don't go anywhere. Continue your check. So you get in the driver's seat. The first thing you want to do is adjust your mirrors. Make sure you can see out of your mirrors. Both sides in the rear view. All right. Trust me, you'll when you go to get your license and you do this, the driver inspector or the state trooper, depending on where you get your license, is going to appreciate you before you even start the test. He sees you doing this, he knows someone taught you something. Okay. Get in, check your mirrors. All right. Now, if you saw something wet underneath when you looked underneath from the front and you saw something dripping or whatever, first thing you want to do is pop the hood and go get somebody. Don't even finish the inspection because something's already leaking. You have a problem. That's first. So let's say there's nothing underneath there. Everything's good. It's dry. You're good. You jump in the driver's seat, get the mirrors first. Second, make sure the seat belt works, right? Horn works. Turn on the lights, get out of the car. Make sure you got headlights, both sides. Get back in the car, put on the four-way hazard flashers. It may be a little button on the dashboard or wherever it is, you need to know where it's at. Turn them on, get out of the car, go in front, and make sure both blinkers are blinking. Go around back, make sure both tail lights are blinking. What you've just done is checked all the lights, all the turn signals without having to put on a signal, get out. The four-way flashers are using all four signals. So you can get them when you look in the front, you can get them when you look in the back. The only one you won't be able to get is when you press on the brake pedal. But if you're up against something or a car behind you or something that you can get a reflection off of, push the brake and look for the lights. All right. Now, that is a vehicle inspection. I know I went fast. Come back to the recording and write these things down. Start doing it right now. Get into a practice of doing it because, like I said, if you're checking those tires and there's a nail in the tire, don't pull it out. You know there's a nail in that tire. So the first place you want to go is to mom, dad, hey, there's a nail in this tire. We need to take this car to the shop to get it repaired. Don't drive it and not tell somebody. Here's why. A lot of times the nail is in there. It's not going to allow it to deflate unless you pull it out. You won't be able to pull it out anyway, unless you're superhumanly strong. Leave it in there and get it straight to a tire repair shop. But a lot of times if it's warm outside, right now you're good because the temperatures are cooler unless you're in a hot place. What happens is as that nail hits the road, every time the tire turns, it's striking the concrete or the road, right? Each strike, the nail heats up, right? And it's going real fast. So that repeat heating will make the tire explode. And if it's in the front where you're driving, it's going to snatch one way and either break your arm or your wrist or finger. Never wrap your fingers inside of the steering wheel. I see people doing this all the time. They have their hand inside of what's known as the spoke of the steering wheel. Break that habit if you're doing it. Always keep your hands cupped on the steering wheel, not in it. Because if it's in it and that tire turns because it exploded, your fingers are going to be broken, wrist, and possibly your arm. Okay. Not trying to scare you. I need you to know these things. Okay. That's a vehicle inspection. Now, there's some things you need inside of the vehicle that you need to check for before you go anywhere. Once you check them once, you know they're there unless someone else uses the vehicle. If someone else ever uses your vehicle, let's say it's your car and somebody needs to go to the store, whatever. You never know what is going on once it's out of your sight. When it comes back to your sight, you do the full check again. Items inside that you need. Get a duffel bag, okay, a good size one, because there's going to be a lot of things inside of it, and it must stay in the vehicle. If you ever have to put a lot of stuff in the trunk and you say, oh, that bag's in the way, take it out. No, because that bag is going to save your butt. What's in the bag? Write this down, please. Number one, a first aid kit. First aid kit. Doesn't have to be a huge one, all this stuff in it, just a decent one that has everything that you might need in case of an accident. Number two, flashlight. Don't put the batteries in it. Put the batteries with it. Okay? That saves the batteries because they're going to be sitting. You don't want it sitting inside of the flashlight because then you are draining them slowly. Or you could create the acid at the ends and it eats up the whole mechanism inside and you don't have a flashlight. So keep them in the bag, not in the flashlight. A change of clothes, including shoes. Let's say that you get into an accident or whatever and the shoes get messed up. You have no shoes or you lose one. Who knows? That bag should have a change of clothes for you. Make them simple. Sweats, something easy, something that's light and warm at the same time. A change of clothes from top to bottom. Everybody's going to be different. All right? What else needs to be in the bag? Glasses, if you wear glasses, a backup pair, just a simple pair that you get from the dollar store. Let's just say whatever. Make sure you can use them. Don't just get a pair from the dollar store and they the wrong medicine. You have to check them, make sure that you can see with them. Needs to be in the bag. Drinking water, at least 5 or 4 bottles, 20-ounce bottles. You may have to wash out a cut. You may need water. You could be stranded somewhere. You need a survival bag in that trunk. Keep it there non-stop. I would also get a solar charger. Okay, they're called solar banks. And they will charge a phone. Where's mine at? It's in the other room. I would show you when I'll go get it once we get ready to close. Put that in the bag. And then whatever else you think you could use, a couple cans of tuna, something that can stay in the car. Ramen noodles, they're not the best thing, but they won't spoil because of the heat if it's hot where you live and what have you. Something, you never know. That's called a survival bag. It should be in every vehicle you drive. Every one of them. You never know what's going to happen. You could be riding, out in the countryside, and all of a sudden, here comes Mr. Deer. Boom! You hit the deer. You go all over the road. You hit the thing, and you go over the ditch and turn upside down. You never know what's going to happen. You're out there all by yourself. What do you do? What if you get hurt? That bag in the trunk will save your life. There's even, I saw one last night. I was looking in products because I'm still researching products for Promise Delivered. There's a tent that comes in a small little bag that could save you in the wintertime. It's a little teeny thing, but it turns into a one-person tent where you can get in out of the wilderness. Let's say all the windows get broke out of the car, so you can't stay in the car. You got to put up something to get out of the weather. Okay, just little things like that. Make sure that bag has everything you need to either take care of yourself in emergency or someone else in emergency. Whatever you take out of the bag, you have to replenish it. Okay, let's say that you're not involved and you come up on an accident somebody had and they're injured. So you go, what? If they're going to allow you to help them, you should help them anyway, but be careful with that too. That's a whole nother conversation. But if they're, not violently injured and moving it or helping them would cause more injury, let's just say it's a really bad cut and all they have is their hand and they're leaking blood everywhere. Then yeah, you want to go in your first aid kit and gauze it, make sure it's secure and they're safe until emergency gets there. What did you just use? Your gauze. So whenever you get where you're going, replenish that, put it back in the bag. Okay. These things are very, very important. That vehicle inspection will save your butt. Okay. It'll save the vehicle if something's leaking underneath. You don't want to drive the car if it's leaking something, right? You could tear up the car. Had you had stopped and said, oh, there's something leaking, let me find out. Dad should pop out, big brother, whoever, pop the hood and find out what's leaking. Okay. Instead of taking the car, get in, don't check nothing, and just take off and drive. Let's say that was all the oil. By the time you get to the first or second red light, the engine temperature is going to go insane. And because you're not paying attention at the dashboard, that's the other thing. But that's driving. I'm going to let the driver people teach you that. Your gauges, tell you what the car's doing. But let's say you're not paying attention to that. And the temperature of the engine is way up here in the red. You don't see it. You're not paying attention until a light comes on. D, 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 right? Oh, something's wrong. I don't know what that's about. Let me go to school. Let me get to work. Let me go to my friend's house. By the time you get there, the engine temperature is in critical condition. It's done. You don't know it yet, but you get there, you turn the car off. The second you do, when that metal stops moving, it freezes because it's so hot. It glues itself together. Right? It sounds weird, but trust me, because there's no lubrication, the metal's real hot going to your friend's house. When you get there and stop the engine, it freezes. It'll freeze and the engine is done. You just destroyed a vehicle. You have to replace the engine. Okay, so vehicle inspection is very, very important. Hundreds, and I mean hundreds of people don't do any of what I just said. None of them. One, they don't know to do it because no one actually taught them how to do a vehicle inspection. If your friends, like a lot of times we get in the car with our friends, we don't think about it. I want you to think about it and think about it for them too. Now, you don't have to go into the part with the bag, but you do have to go into the part of the vehicle inspection. They may laugh at you, so what? They may ask, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? We're going to make sure this vehicle's in good condition before we jump in here, because a lot of times if they're not doing an inspection, they could care less. And that's what they're saying about your life too. And I want you to be liable for your own life. So make your friends follow you through a vehicle inspection and impress on them how important that is. Okay. You'll save your life and somebody else's life. Okay. All right. Today, I want to talk about financial consequence, which is all of the words of your past assignment. Financial consequence can either be a very good thing for you or a very bad thing for you if you are not paying attention. Now, the financial consequences that could happen in the negative if you don't pay attention to any of the words of last week. The contract that you signed, the liability that you've just taken on, the principal and interest of the payment that you're now under, and the usury of the whole thing. If you go into a contract, you are accepting everything. Remember, like I said, when you go get a checking account, when you open up your bank account, you sit down at that desk and you give your driver's license and they set up this thing and they go to ask the question, that, right? And then they say, here's the, what do they call it? They don't call it a contract because they don't want you to know what you're going into. They just say, here's your documents for your account. Just sign here, here, and here. But the paperwork is this thick. They know you're not going to read that. I didn't read it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I did. But I learned from not reading it to read it. The last 2 accounts that I opened, I had those documents emailed to me and I emailed them to my attorney. Sure did. I don't know how to read that. They do. That's what they get paid for. And then she came back and said, well, this, that, and the other, this, you be liable, this, that. If you really get the true understanding of a checking account document, you are in total acceptance of whatever they want to do to you and your money. And then the last thing she said was, that's all banks. All of them say the same thing. But you don't know that because you're not going to sit there and read all that. And that's why they do it. Because we accept what is put in our face and we just sign blindly. Remember, I told you, your signature is worth billions. You may not believe me. It may sound, your signature is worth billions. Why do you think they want it? We'll go into that another time. I will explain to you, it'll be a whole class, what your signature does. All right? For a whole discussion. I can't use the word class because any and everything that I speak about on this call is of my own opinion. This is for entertainment and whatever you want to call it. Okay? I don't have license, so I have to say that. Please remind me to say that at the front of the call next time. Thank you. So financial consequence is all of the things above, and you are liable for everything. That's why you're here. That's why you're going to school. That's why you're learning a skill. That's why you go to work. Right now, we come into life as a worker bee or an ant, a worker ant. There is the ant hill, that's America, and you are a worker ant within that hill. Sounds kind of cold-blooded, but you have to know where you stand until you make a difference. Now, how do you make a difference? Very simple. You become the financial foundation. You're not part of a financial foundation. You become your own. How do you do that, Mr. Lewis? This thing right here. Let me see if I can get it in the light so you can see the word tangible. That's one of them. The other one is whatever cold storage you would care to use. Now, I want you to understand that what I am trying to help you do, and we are going to succeed, is to become your own financial foundation. Slowly, but purposely. So that you don't get into contract laws, usury. That's the biggest one. And if you notice, all of the information and definitions that you gave on principal and interest was about you making a payment. And where it came from was the bank and the contract and the contract law that says you have to pay this because you signed a document saying you would. But at the back end of everything you talked about is usury. I'm getting you out of the usury part. How? One, giving you the knowledge of what all of that stuff has done to all of us, all the adults on this call, your mom and dad. It's happened to us. We got into the rat race, as they call it. You go to work, you make agreements and sign contracts. You dig this hole. You steady digging. I forget who spoke on that last week. You know who you are. You were saying that you dig a hole that you can't get out of. Credit cards, house note, car note, I don't know, whatever else. Stuff that you have to have it, but everything is so expensive, you have to go into a loan, the usury part, to get it. And now you're making principal and interest payments on the usury of the loan for the liability that you have. House, car, whatever it is, that's a liability to you and to the public. Not so much the house, but it can. If your house catches on fire, it's burning or whatever, and some of your fire gets onto the next house, you're liable for that because your house caught on fire and now you caught theirs on fire and the one next to you. Now you're liable for these two guys and your own. So you see how the usury happens? But how do we negate that? How do we step in between that whole process? Number one, you start your own bank. And as we go through the two platforms that will be in your hands within days, you're going to start putting away funds or currencies, be it US dollar or cryptocurrency, whichever it's going to be, which should be announced here very, very shortly. Very soon, you're going to get an announcement of which way this country is going to go. Is it going to go paper only, or is it going to go crypto? You already heard what he said. Everybody in the world heard what he said. Cryptocurrency. You already know it. He's there now. So there's no, oh, we got to wait for him to get there. We have to wait for this or that, this, that. Mm-mm. I told you this was coming. I told your parents, your grandpa, your grandmom. I told everybody this was coming. I started the class to prepare you to take care of your financial consequence. So how do we do that? Number one, you should or will be in ownership of some type of cold storage. The platform that you are connected to currently, and then there's an obligation that I have with you to start you off with some type of crypto, which I think more than likely is going to be XRP. I haven't forgotten. We're going to start you off with that. Now, that's going to be your first step. The second step would be to understand this. And I want to talk a little bit about this today, more in detail. So you already know there's two things you can do with it. Either send to it or send from it. Really simple. And I like the fact that the president has already stated that this country is going to use the products that you put on here, cryptocurrency and or digital currency. Remember me talking about you're going to go from paper to digital. You've already been practicing it with your debit card. When you go to the ATM machine, you stick it in there, you punch in the 4 digits, and then on the screen pops, oh, your savings account, your checking account. What do you want to look at? Oh, I want to look at my checking account. Put in your 4 digits. Boom, boom, boom. Everything is working off of digital already. You just didn't realize it. You put in the key and it opens up, bing, your checking account has $3,000 in it. Great. I can go shopping. with my debit card because now I know there's $3,000 on my account, right? That's usually how it works. Now you have a known amount that you have available on your debit card, right? 3,000. Now, can you go to the store and, well, you could, I think. I'd have to make sure before I make that statement. Let's just keep it at the ATM because I know that for a fact. So you do your 4 digits, you put the key in, and you see your savings or checking account. There's 3,000 in there. Oh, I need $1,000 because I'm going, I don't know, Cancun, going on vacation. So you stick the card in there and you put in 1,000 withdrawal, and it says, "Deed, no, Mr. Lewis, you cannot withdraw $1,000. You can only withdraw 500. But I have 3,000 in there. That ATM machine and your account, if you did not go in and ask to increase that withdrawal limit, which you can, but that's another day's work. You leave in 3 hours. Guess what? One, you're not going on that trip. Two, it takes 2 days to get $1,000 because you can only get $500 a day. So you'd have missed the trip anyway because you pre-planned. You have to ask permission to use your money. That is a form of usury. It's your money. Why can't I use it? Because you have to ask permission to use it. So you have to wait till tomorrow, go in the bank, and ask them to increase the withdrawal limit to $1,000. Now, from that point forward, until you change it, you can pull out $1,000. All right? But you see the transaction that had to happen prior to, you missed the trip that you booked. That money's all trash. If you had to do a deposit, or hopefully you book with a company that'll allow you to float for an emergency situation because you didn't pre-plan. So you have to pre-plan. When you're going to make a move like that, you have to either go to the bank the day before and physically withdraw 1,000. You can do that in person, but that ATM machine is going to tell you you can only have 500 per day unless you change it. This is part of that usury. And like I said, when you make a deposit to the bank, you sign it over to them. You sign it over to them, just like Jalen said. You sign it over to them. It's no longer yours. You have to ask permission to use it. Did you catch that? You put it in there. You have to ask them, can you use it? This, on the other hand, let's talk about this for a couple of minutes and I'm going to go for questions. This, on the other hand, you see whose hands it is in. Mine. Okay. I have it. It's here. When I make a deposit here, I make a deposit in either cryptocurrency or digital currency, which will be part of the crypto. Okay. Just like there's a USDT right now, TRC20, CR20, I think it is. But you get my point. There is a digital representation of the US fiat dollar right now, USDT 20, TRC 20. Okay, that is a digital representation of the fiat currency right now. Its worth in value is zero. Nobody has seen that. If you go onto the exchange right now, if you don't believe me, pull it up. Go into your wallet and look up the currencies there or the cryptos there, and you look at USDT. You will see the current value is zero. You look at the current value of Bitcoin, $104,000. That's the value of it. You look at XRP, $3.20 something cents. That's the current value of it. USDT, zero. Now, how in the Sam, you know what, does everything that we balance everything off of have a zero value? Remember, I told you, most truths will be put in front of you in plain sight. But we're so programmed, we are so mindset to what they have told us it is over the years. It's a $20 bill, it's a $100 bill, it's a $50 bill, $5, $1. That's all you see. You don't look past that because that's what you've been programmed to think. If I was to hold up four $100 bills, you would say you have $400, right? At the current mindset, that's what you would say. You know what I would say if I'm holding up $400? 200 in this hand, 200 in this hand? I would say I have 4 pieces of paper worth 0 monetary gain. It's a debt instrument. There is no positive to a debt. It's a negative. So you have 4 pieces of paper that state that you have 4 pieces of debt. Okay? 4 pieces of debt. It's worth nothing. If you don't believe me, go on there and look. It'll show you 0 as to the actual value of that thing. So when I tell you, and I've said it to my adults, and I'm saying it to you, you have to read. It is imperative to your financial consequence. You have to read everything. Whenever somebody goes into, well, you can do this for me and I'll do, you stop them. I don't do verbal contracts. Put a cease to that immediately. So go ahead and implant that. I do not do verbal contracts ever. Say that to yourself. So if anybody tries to come at you saying, well, you could do this and you're so good at writing, I'll give you $20 if you write. No, you will not. I don't do verbal contracts. Squash that conversation. I don't care who it is, even if it's the president of the United States. Do not go into a verbal contract. It's usury. Period. You're going to be taken advantage of. Somebody needs your skill set and they don't intend on paying you for it. Don't do it ever, even with family. Sis, I'll give you 50 for doing this. No, I don't do verbal contracts. Just end it right there, and then that person will respect you better than if you say, well, okay, I'll try. Now you've gone into a verbal contract that you knew you didn't have time for in the first place when you said, I'll try. You know right there, your body's telling you, don't do it. You don't have time for that. But you told that person or you agreed in that verbal. Now you're in a financial consequence to get them what they need on top of the stuff that you're doing. Never do it. I don't care who it is. Now, I can't override mom and dad. I draw the line there. If they want to do one with you, that's up to you. I'm not saying don't listen to your mom and dad, but anybody else, don't ever, 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 ever go into a financial verbal contract with anyone. It is illegal. I'll just put that much on it. It's not illegal, but that's just me saying, run away. Don't do them. All right. There's only one word this week, financial consequence. I know I just talked about it forever, but I still want you to go do your due diligence on it, because as you do these requests from me, you should be gathering and building on your knowledge base of all the things that we've talked about. Now we're into the big stuff. Financial consequence. There's a lot of them. I'll let you find out when you start doing the one word, or it's a double word, but that's the only word I'm going to give this week. Now, let me talk about this right here. You're going to be using it on a regular basis as we open up, when we open up Promise Delivered. Team World's already open. But when we open up a Promise Delivered and we go into the system and we are now gathering from both, you're going to use this on a weekly basis. Why am I going to use this on a weekly basis, Mr. Lewis? Because you're going to do your own deposits. Now, for the juniors, and I didn't get all of everybody did not send names. So I got a couple more added to the 3 that was already given. I'll give everybody one more chance to name your class. And then next week, I'll go ahead and do the hat. Sis, we'll pick out the name of your class and we'll go from there. But for those who did send in the names, I appreciate it. But for the juniors, you're going to be allowed, or your parents, whatever, is going to be allowed to go into the account and make a deposit to your bank. Whatever that number is, you decide. You decide. But there needs to be a weekly deposit to this. Now, right now, the back office is set to US dollar. It's not going to stay there. But it's there now. So whatever number you come up with for my juniors, now the ones that are old enough, your back office will be open. Just go ahead and do what you need to do. But the juniors, pick an amount that you want to put away in your cold storage device. So make sure it's set up. You have one. If you don't have one, let me know. We'll get you one. But you need to activate it right now. If you don't have one, you can't do it right now. For those who have theirs, great. Get your receive code, your receive address to your cold storage device, whichever one you're using. Juniors, the little ones, I need you to pick a number. What amount do you want to deposit to your cold storage on a weekly basis, including the $3.50 that we're supposed to be putting away weekly? Come up with that number, and once we get started and get going, that will be deducted out weekly and put into your, or monthly, once a month. When you go in to do whatever, we got to figure out how to do this the right way so that it's there. Okay, I need you to start using that process, getting used to doing the deposit to it, getting the receive address, sending it to the withdrawal box, and withdraw straight to your cold storage. It's going to leave out of the back office, out of your Promise Delivered withdrawal, straight to the bank here weekly. Now, I may be able to have them set up a weekly withdrawal. I don't know yet. I will find out once we get the back office. Once I get the keys, should be, I would say, soon. I'm not going to give any dates because I know there's other people on here that will nail me to the wall if I give you a date, not them. So I'm not going to give a date soon. But the whole process will be to make sure that you're putting something away here every week. Okay, it doesn't have to be an extraordinary amount. Just set it up so that something's going there. All right. Now, the next thing that I want you to work on is I guess you could say, you should already have the wallet. I would say the crypto debit card. If you don't have one, start reading about them. Find out which one that you can use in the United States. Okay, because all of them are not available here. But go do your own due diligence on that. So let's write that one down. Crypto debit card. Go find one. Start looking across the internet, locate one, do the due diligence, which means check it out fully. What is the withdrawal limits? Where can you use it? What type of, is there any cash back on it? Go do some digging for next week and then come back with what you have. So you only have two assignments this week. All right. We have to start using these devices, especially this one, because this is your bank. And the reason why I want you to start putting it in there is because you need to have an established bank. When you use this, and let's say you start putting $1,000 a week in there, by the time you get ready to go to college, you know what's going to be here. You can almost pay for your entire 4-year tuition the first day of college. Don't do that, because you have to make sure that that's really what you want to do. Okay? If you decide to go to college, let it be from here, not from here, from people saying, you go to college, you go. Now, I'm not getting in between you and mom and dad, but I still need to put in your ear. College is not for everybody. I know that's it's probably not a fair statement to say, but I like to speak the truth. And the reason why I do it is because if I don't, and everybody else is saying things on hopes and prayers, then they're not being truthful with you. I'm going to be truthful. If you are struggling and having a difficult time in simple high school, college is 2 times that, 3 times, 5 times, because now, well, let's say 100 times, because it's completely up to you. When you're in school, mom got to get you up, dad got to get you up. They got to make sure you got clothes. They got to make sure that you eat breakfast before you go. They're going to make sure you got transportation there, even if it's the bus. They got to make sure you get to the bus, get on the bus, right? The bus takes you to school. You get to school, you do your thing. Da, da, da. There's somebody helping you along the way. Go, go, go. When you go to college, it's all you. 100%. You have to make sure you got clothes. You have to make sure you get up on time to get breakfast. You have to cook your own breakfast. You have to get to college or to class. It's up to you. There's nobody doing this. But the whole time that process is happening, there's a bill being generated, financial consequence, tuition, books, transportation, so on, food, clothing, where you living at. That's all coming out, and it's up to you. On top of that, and I'm not trying to scare anyone from going to college, be prepared. Start now. If you're going to go to college, start now. Number 1, putting your tuition away. Number 2, get the right mindset. All right, I'm going to be responsible. Remember your 2 weeks ago? Responsibility, accountability. I'm going to be responsible to get up, eat, fix up, get to class, learn what's going on in class, apply that, do the homework, bring it in on time, early if possible, but on time. That's all up to you. That's not for everybody. And there's a lot of people that fooled themselves thinking, oh, I'm going to go to college. But were you ready to go to college? Was it in here? It has to be in here. Because if it's not here, the physical body's not going to follow. Just keep that in mind. All right. I think I've destroyed enough brain cells for this day. Any questions? I'm going to tell you about the financial consequence before we leave. I just need to know, is there any questions?
Mr. Lewis, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Pretty short. Mr. Lewis, what do you think about smart contracts using the blockchain technology?
Okay, let's put that one on for next week. Smart contract. Even though I'm going to give you some of it now, you're going to dig up the rest. Smart contract. Okay, smart contracts are basically using the blockchain. Remember me talking about how transactions go into the blockchain. They're not found because you can't see them. Versus if you do a transaction with a bank or someone gets your PIN per se, and they go into your account, they're able to take monies out and create financial consequences for you. A smart contract is done on a different platform known as the blockchain. On that blockchain, if you go into a transaction with someone or a contract, hence the word smart, smart because it's on the blockchain, contract because it's a contract. And that contract has a principal interest and a end date time. All right. It's all done on the blockchain where nothing can be seen. All right. These transactions are happening by the milliseconds every day, all day. Transactions happen. You go into a smart contract for a specific amount, that transaction will happen and pay out and it's over. Then it just dies off because both principles were met. The outlay, what's going to happen, the payment. Okay. Happens in milliseconds on a platform that cannot be seen by the human eye or someone trying to hack it. It's protected by all of those transactions. It's almost like taking a bucket full of pennies times 100,000 people and everybody throw the pennies in the air and let them fall. In that menagerie of pennies going everywhere, bouncing around and hitting each other, a transaction happened in the midst of all that. That's a smart contract broken down. Love them. It can't be seen. It can't be, there's no usury. If there is a principal requested and a principal met, there's an outcome and it's paid instantly. Or at the time this is all happening, if it says that contract pays out at this point, it'll happen in this. Bink. There's nobody in between messing with it. So that's part of using this. Okay. So it's either going to be crypto smart contract or it's going to be digital currency, which is also going to be able to be put on that. That's coming. You don't have that yet. That's next. That's the evolution of the fiat and what we've been talking about with the quantum financial system, what we've been talking about, digital currency. That's coming. That's the evolution out of the paper that's worth this into the paper that's worth what's in the country holding it. Okay?
Okay, so in other words, it's better than a physical contract.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
You're welcome. There's no other people involved in it. There's no other points of contact, or if you do this and this and this, and he does that, then when they talk to them and they make an agreement to decide to do the yes, and you came in with the money, there's none of that. When you go in with the money, you go directly to the principal, the person or the project or whatever. And the agreement is that when you put up 100, you get 300. When you put that 100 up and all of that transaction going on and the date and time comes up for that financial gain, it comes out. The 300 pops to your wallet. It'll be a wallet, not this. It'll be to the wallet. You'll see 300 pop into your wallet. There was no more contact with that person because everything was met in the smart contract. The agreement was you put in 100, you get 300 at this particular time. Not only are you doing it, there's 1,000 other people around the world doing the same thing. So in all those transactions, at 1 second, beep, everybody got 300. No one's seen it say, oh, Mr. MJ, it's your turn to get 300. That transaction can be seen. If it's in this, thousands of transactions happening about a millisecond and then go beep. Who saw it? Nobody. But you have it because it popped into your address. This is the importance of understanding how to use these things. The address is everything. It's how you send it, it's how you receive it. So you must know. And this is one time that I will really be firm on, you must know your addresses. Don't ever try to write it. Don't try to type it. You have to copy and paste it. So if you're not good at that process, learn how to copy and paste immediately. You don't have any time. Okay? It's very, very important. Any other questions?
Mr. Lewis, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's about the ATM machine being a usury. How is the ATM machine a form of usury if the machine is of a specific size, making it hold a limited amount of money per person who is banking with that bank? Is that not the reason for the $500 limit?
It is, but here's the instance of that same question. The usury is the fact that you have to ask permission. Okay, the usury is the fact that you cannot use what you want to use. Now, the same would go for installation purposes. They have the capable ability to make a ATM hold thousands of dollars. Now, again, the same question would gather, how much are you doing for the use of an ATM machine? Number one, you have to use their device. That device is telling you that you can only have 500. They set that balance. You didn't. You needed $1,000 to go out of town. But because, here's the other part, you don't have the financial consequence or the financial wherewithal. I need $1,000 on next Wednesday because I'm going to Cancun, right? So you would make preparation before the night of the flight and not use their device because you know their device is going to short you at a certain amount if you didn't extend it. So the usury comes in that you have to ask them permission to use your money. They tell you how much you can and cannot use. If you're using this and you're going to Cancun, you don't have to ask anybody for anything. Number one, you have enough on here to go anywhere you want in the world. Two, the crypto debit card that you have connected to that you can send to your debit card whatever you want. And you don't have to have this in your hand to do it. That's why you need the addresses, right? You only need the address to where you're sending it. So if you have a crypto, what do I do with it? I'll throw it away. Anyway, I'll just hold this phone up. If you have your crypto debit card on your phone, and let's say that you know you can log into your device to send from, or you can pull it from your back office from a promise delivered, and you're in Cancun and you need $3,000. Let's say you're on 7th grade and you have a balance in the back office of 25,000 and you need 3,000 over here. You just pull 3,000, put it on your debit card on your phone in Cancun in less than 30 seconds. You didn't have to ask nobody. You just logged in, you make a withdrawal, use your receive address, put it in the withdrawal, pull it. Within a second or two, you have $3,000 in Cancun. Try that with a bank. One, you log into your bank account and you want to move, you can do it, but again, you have to have the available currency or whatever in the bank. Now, if you don't have it, then you don't have it. If you have it over here, then you have it. Let's say that you don't have this yet. You just started and you already had the Cancun trip done, paid for and all that good stuff. The time comes up to go, and let's say you don't have this yet, and you didn't prepare last week to upgrade your ATM use, and you come up on the date to leave. If you can't get into the bank because the plane takes off at 4 a.m, all you have is an ATM machine. You need 3,000. You can only get out 500. What happens? What happens?
You get nothing. You're stuck.
There you go. So it's all about preparation. It's all about making sure you get out of the banking institution. I want you guys out of that institution. I want you in your own institution where you make the calls, you make the shots, you say the yes or no. Get out of the usury. Okay? This is going to allow you to become your own banker. You become the bank. You call the shots. You say yes or no. Okay? That ATM is okay. You can use both, but put more of your efforts in something that you own, you control. Just like the known statement, own nothing but control everything. Don't put nothing in your name. This is not in your name. It's a device that you own and control. There's a difference here. Why don't they want you to own anything right now? Because of obligations. If you have everything in your name, everybody in the world can sue you for it, right? If they know you got a $500,000, say like one of your friends know that you ran your mouth, and they know now that you have $500,000 in the bank. Don't you think that friend is going to go talk to a friend? Don't realize what they're saying about you around people, exposing your financial wherewithal, which means how much money you have, and somebody in the background is listening to a conversation about you that don't even know you, but they heard your name, $500,000, and that's one of your friends' friends. Now you're a target. So what's that person going to do? They're either going to bump your car, or they're going to get into a fight with you and make you hit them, and then they fall down and break an arm, and then they sue you for $100,000 because they know you got 500, right? So again, all in what you say, and if it's on here, no one should know what's on there ever, unless it's your, significant other or whatever you want to call it. That information should stay secret to a point. Now, at one point, just like on the documents that everyone is signing right now that's having an issue with, I don't know why, but on that document, it states that there is a legal representative. That person should know everything about you. And I do mean everything. They need to know the password to this. They need to know the numbers to it. So it's someone that you have to trust with your life, literally. That's a legal representative, because that person is going to need to get into this when you leave here. And trust me when I tell you, there's going to be a lot in here if I have anything to do with it, and a promise delivered has anything to do with it. There's going to be a lot in here. That legal representative needs to know how to get in here when you leave here. Okay? Any other questions?
Yes, just one more. I see that you keep holding up the ledger. Are you wanting us, or the tantrum? Are you wanting us to get one?
Well, the only reason why I'm holding up the tangent because the other ones are in the safe. This box is just up here. But I will say this is the easiest one to use. It's the easiest one to use. Try them all. Get the one that you like. That's why I want you guys to do the due diligence on them. Look them up on YouTube. See the use. How easy is it to use? That's doing the due diligence. Do you have to have this, that? How many, find out the easiest one to use is for you. This one I just keep holding up because the box is here. I have 5 of them. This is the easiest one to use.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right. One last chance. I want to give you a real life situation. And I need you to pay very, very close attention because I need you to make the same decisions I had to make. And I need you to be strong enough to make those decisions and stand behind them. And those decisions are you never know who you're speaking to. So always speak and treat a person as you want to be treated. Case in point, a particular person was on the beneficiary list of mine. Okay, beneficiary list. This individual basically mistreated me. Number one, this person requested money from me. Done it on many occasions. Many occasions. When I was not able to give what they wanted when they wanted it, got on the phone, accused me of lying, number one. Number two, accused me of favoritism with other individuals and hung up the phone. Now, there's 2 things that I cannot stand. Number one, don't mistreat me because I treat everybody with the utmost respect and love, period. Don't ever mistreat someone who looks out for you and has looked out for you over the years. And number 2, if you hang up on me, I'm done with you because that is total disrespect. So don't ever, if you get into an argument or whatever with a person, kindly excuse yourself and then hang up. But when you just straight hang up on a person, you have no respect for them at all. Heated a moment or not, it's very, very disrespectful to me. So that person was removed from my beneficiary list. Do you have any idea what that person just did? So you have to be careful how you treat people and what you do to people because the financial consequence can be staggering. Staggering. Now that individual will never see any of that compensation. Ever. So always, 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 whatever situation you get in, if you tell people what you expect of them prior to or during the course of a communication, always put up your standards and let them know that this is what you will and will not stand for. Number one, total disrespect by hanging up on a person. Don't ever do that. If you've done it before, ask God for forgiveness. Number 2, treat those who have treated you. if all you have done was taken from them, I need, can I borrow, can I borrow, can I borrow? And you've never give anything back, you have no financial standing, number one. Usury. So always keep yourself in a posture of respect. That person has no idea what they just cut themselves out of. It's too late. Once I make a decision, I'm done. I'm done. So that's a personal experience that I'm sharing with you. You can be put in that situation if you don't give what you expect back. You can lose out not only on that, but you can lose out on spiritual support. You know, you've heard people say, I'll pray for you. You can miss out on that too. Just know that you can be cut loose like an old flower with one decision that you make. Just remember that. All right. Wanted to share that so that you know it does happen. And it can happen to you if you don't keep yourself in a standard or share with others so that they don't mess up with you. It's not about being on a pedestal. It's about being treated fairly, period. If you tell somebody you love them, they have to love you back unconditionally, not because you have money. So the more you keep your financials private, the less financial consequence you will wind up in because of you didn't keep it private. All righty. Any other questions? Just wanted to share that.
Mr. Lewis, good afternoon. I have a quick question for you. With the tantrum, do you know if I can have more than one?
Yes.
Like I'm thinking I could, okay, because the youngsters can't get them.
Yes.
Not okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now remember, in that same question, you can have multiple wallets on any one of these. So you can create sub wallets within a wallet. All right. But I would actually just get the separate ones. That way they could just take it over and they have their own cards and all that as they move forward. So I would recommend multiples.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. That will cover it. Let me stop YouTube.